Is there a question you're trying to answer as you move through life?
At this point, the what strikes me is that this sense that um, the workplace and society is moving faster than organizations can keep up, and that as individuals and employees, we're paying the price. Whether that's in terms of direction, whether it's in terms of mental health, and they're all linked. Uh, we're actually we find ourselves, I think, on a coach where we don't know the driver. And what came up for me, and it started during lockdown, was that whilst we're all there being good corporate citizens and we're doing all the things that we're supposed to do, all of us have a voice. All of us have something that uh, is about our work as expression of who we are, not just work as something that we do. And there's an area in there that, as sort of organisations at the moment are thrashing around for control in what is a very sort of volatile workspace, and as technology disrupts the skills base, so that a lot of the time the things that we've been trained and educated, encouraged and bonused and motivated to do is going to be heavily disrupted by technology that does the anodyne stuff better than we do. And our value comes from thinking the unthinkable, what Jung would call the unthought known, and these ideas that we all have perspectives that are about far more than our intellect. We have a presence with who we in the communities we're in. Um, we sense things, we see things, we have things that we can't articulate, and all of those are there like pieces of a jigsaw. And my interest is in finding a space where we can put all those jigsaw pieces into one place. Normally in small groups. I mean, I find the bigger the group, the more complex the web of relationships, and the more safe the environment has to be, to the point of being vanilla. The real work, the real energy comes when you've got small groups. I find around eight, where people they've developed a relationship, that there's a basis of trust there. And then you can get into the things that matter. You can pick these jigsaw pieces up and start playing with them and looking at where they might fit in the knowledge that none of you know. So it's a bit like children at play. And we get into that area where none of us are right, none of us know, but actually we know that there's something there. And I think what that relates to is, again, different for all of us and where we are in our lives. But there is something there about who we are, why we are where we are now. And going back to the point at which you started this conversation, is what's the direction of your life? And it's not woo, and it's not, these are really substantial questions. And I think it was sort of brought into focus really during lockdown, where all of the things we just accepted as day to day, this is what work looks like and this is how we do it, all got thrown into confusion. And then we got into hybrid working and working from office and all of those things that we found that we had to do during lockdown. And then somebody said, okay, it's over. Okay, come on back to work now. But during that space, in that space that we had doing that, we're never going to go back to normal because I think we see things differently. It's not a question of just going back. It's a question of society has changed. I think our levels of uncertainty have changed. That was the academic. That was the pandemic. What's next? And I think as things like climate change become more visibly present to us, there is this underlying side for a lot of people. Well, this is what's my life. What am I doing with this? And actually, the classic recipe of you go to school, and you then work for 20 or 30 years, and then you do other stuff. No longer works. I think the things that people are looking for is money, and once you've got enough money, it gets fairly boring for most people. And I think there's a huge awareness of within community, within ourselves, that there are things that we want from life, and we can contribute to life. And I think maybe that's the bigger part. Wanting stuff from life, that's easy. We know how to do that as consumers. But it's not about consuming life, it's generating life. It's the things we see, the things we feel, those sort of thoughts that we don't quite often have the space to speak that are important. And I think it's that. When the people I work with, um, there's a classic question in coaching. You wait till the end, and then you say to somebody, and is there anything else? And then you get quite on, he goes, woof. And I think that's a general sort of condition with people at the moment. There is lots of if we were just going around to people in the street and saying, "Is there anything else?" It'd take you all day to get down the street
Yeah.
because there's all these things, there's all these I know various ideas, fears, whole range of things that people are carrying around with them that there is no space to deal with. So people are sort of hanging on to them and thinking it's about them and not other people. And so I think the area which you and I have spoken about, which is this idea of having, we sort of term them a bit clumsily really, but conversations without agenda, which is what's going on. Um, and just what's going on with people with no particular end in mind. Just, how are you? Really? Uh, and we've often said in these groups that they're not therapy, but there is something therapeutic about them. And it used to be the time at one point back in great grandfather's day, it was the stuff that was done at the pub or at church on a Sunday morning, because that's where you went on a Sunday morning. And it was communities who you were close to and knew. Um, and as we become more fragmented and as we become busier, we don't get those safe spaces. We don't get those, I use the word advisedly, we don't get those sacred moments where we can just be who we are with other people. And I think it matters.